Cool. So, on to HS Tikky Tokky and Piers Morgan.
We ready?
Whenever you are.
So, for this episode, we'd like Samantha to keep a straight face. As I mentioned, HS Tikky Tokky and Piers Morgan. And after the Louis Theroux documentary with Netflix, and obviously one of the people who got massively criticised in that was HS Tikky Tokky, who during the film said he couldn't give a fuck anyway. He later appears on Piers Morgan, and Piers Morgan is very indignant with him and morally superior in every way. And HS Tikky Tokky just torments him, just literally pulls up pictures of his missus, where his missus is kind of berating or humiliating Piers Morgan to the extent that Piers Morgan just lost himself completely and stormed off his own show, stood up, stormed off from his own show, and just left HS Tikky Tokky arguing with him. Sorry, just laughing at him, having won the argument in a sense. And
See, that's interesting. You see it that way. I went and watched it this morning, and I don't see it that way at all.
in what sense?
Well, this is where, guys, you're going to see David and I have a disagreement without arguing. Because David and I refuse to argue,
Yeah.
but we like to have a good, honest disagreement.
So how is it wrong? So what do you think? Well, look, just explain what you think.
So HS Tikky Tokky, I can't keep a straight face. I just love it. It's great. It's so juvenile, but it works at the same time.
Yeah, but that's the point, isn't it? It is. It is. It couldn't be more juvenile. And
Yes.
Piers Morgan loses himself and gets up and leaves his own show.
No, I'm on about just his name, HS Tikky Tokky. Just
Hmm.
the name itself is so juvenile, which is why it cracks me
Yeah.
up. It's just funny. Anyway, so he says initially that he enjoyed the Louis Theroux documentary and that Louis Theroux and himself had had some kind of email exchanges even after the documentary. But I did notice a bit of a contradiction in what he was saying because um, whilst he's both openly homophobic, but he also states categorically, well, one of the things I wanted in life was a gay son, and I want him to go out wearing makeup on a weekend and doing all that kind of stuff. So, like, you completely contradicted yourself there. So I can see where Piers Morgan is, and his head's now getting what am I talking to right now? Because I'd be exactly the same. He's homophobic in one sentence and then completely in another sentence contradicting that homophobia, which doesn't make any sense.
Okay. But Piers Morgan is well known for getting people on his show and shouting them down and stuff like that, right? And do we agree that in many respects, if not all respects, HS Tikky Tokky, or at least his public persona on camera, is a fucking idiot?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. And Piers Morgan knows that. But the minute that Piers Morgan was on the receiving end of basically childish banter or childish insults, and that's exactly what it was. But
Yeah.
basically, bearing in mind that HS Tikky Tokky is supposed to be a representative of the manosphere, red pill, men are in charge, women do as you're told. One, you are naive if you think, Piers, he's not going to pull up social media posts of your wife where she's actually referencing the fact that she's shagging other men, even if it,
Before
yeah, but
we
even if it's tongue in cheek, even if it's tongue in cheek, and to lose your temper, that you basically throw your fucking toys out the pram and storm off your own show to him, to HS Tikky Tokky. You can't have it both ways. You can't have a moral high ground and then lose yourself to the guy.
See, again, this is where I see it differently. So, first of all, when HS Tikky Tokky called him bro, and Piers immediately responded to that with, don't want to be bros. And I've just put a note here. Piers don't want to be bros with HS Tikky Tokky. So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was
No,
kind of
I
one of
understand.
the first digs there. But then it disintegrated very quickly from there because Piers was constantly trying to ask him a question. And rather than listening to the question, he just said, "Yeah, well, you've been on Epstein, you're in Epstein files, you've been on Epstein's island, etc., etc."
Yeah,
Without actually letting Piers say, "Actually, do you know what? You might find me in the Epstein files, but in relation to what exactly?" And I've not been on Epstein's island. And
yeah.
because he can't
Everything you're
win that, all
saying,
he does is talks over Piers Morgan, and
but
he
that's
literally
exactly
then
what
the
Piers
whole
Morgan normally does.
So yeah,
That's
so
exactly.
what he's so that's fine. But what I'm so if so Piers Morgan might normally do that. I don't watch enough interviews of Piers Morgan to understand whether he normally does that or not. I've seen a few interviews with Piers Morgan, and I've never seen interviews where he has done that. So that's where I'm coming from. I've never seen
Mm.
interviews where he actually has done that. He has heated debates. Absolutely, he does. But I've never seen interviews where he's just literally just disintegrated in the way that this did. And all HS Tikky Tokky did, he just didn't let him speak at all. He just wanted to throw loads and loads of accusations at him until it literally just came with, well, the next accusation. Oh, look, this is your wife, mate. This is your wife being done,
Yeah.
and putting him out there as a cuckold. They're like, this isn't an interview by any. This is a kid, a
Yes.
narcissistic kid having a go at an interviewer. And that's all that was. So I'm sorry, if I was Piers Morgan, I'd have done exactly the same. I'd have left the room because there's no sane way to handle that situation.
The thing, you're not wrong in that sense. But what were you expecting to turn up? Piers Morgan was expecting an idiot to turn up who thought that, I don't know, maybe he had some idea that he would respect Piers Morgan because I'm Piers Morgan. Maybe he
Maybe.
feels maybe he feels he's Justin Timberlake and has a world tour and everyone should know who he is. All right. And but at the moment he got the guest on, his job is not to get rattled by the guest when you're trying to show what a juvenile, stupid, inferior human being HS Tikky Tokky is supposed to be. And whether he's the world's biggest clown or he beat you at your own game almost becomes irrelevant because it's your show and you're the one that stormed off having a tantrum because you didn't like what he put out about you and your wife. Bearing in mind, that's exactly what him and his red pill friends are always talking about. That's literally what they do. And you then had a tantrum because he did
So,
it on your show.
okay. So Piers Morgan didn't come in with eyes wide open, and I'm not sticking up for Piers Morgan here because he kind of winds me up as well. I'm not a fan of Piers Morgan by any stretch of the imagination, and he probably deluded himself somewhat into thinking he could handle um, a personality like HS Tikky Tokky, who would just disintegrate it, talk all over him, and show him up the best way he possibly could, which he did. And I don't think Piers Morgan really understood that that's what was going to happen.
I think the thing that my take on it is it really got under his skin. It's just like, do you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, it, it could happen to any of us. It genuinely could. But it's you, like I said, it's just my observation of what did you think was going to happen, and he clearly was rattled by this young guy, whilst at the same time trying to promote the fact that he's a no, he's just a nonsense and an idiot, a little boy, like grow up. Well,
But to be fair, I think he actually showed HS Tikky Tokky for being that little boy that's just going to talk over you and poke at you and poke at you and poke at you and then laugh at you because he thinks he's right. I think he did an excellent job of showing that that was exactly the case.
no, I I think my issue with it probably is the very people that are condescending towards HS Tikky Tokky
Mm.
are the very people that push young boys to like him. And I don't like that. I want an alternative. And if you're going to have a Piers Morgan debate a HS Tikky Tokky, and let's be honest, it's very rare that anybody ever gets the better of Piers Morgan in so many ways. He's an absolute pro.
Mm.
But the young boys that HS Tikky Tokky appeal to now are now inflated about who HS Tikky Tokky is and what he represents. You haven't done anything to. It's not. You can't diminish his reputation with people who already dislike him.